For the listeners, Elton has one eye.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching, obviously, you can't really, I don't know if you can see.
Can you see it? Is this in 4K? Zoom in if it's in 4K, baby, you know?
yeah. Tell the editors.
Do double zoom if you want. Within that word of disability, there's always going to be an ability. So it's something that we shouldn't overlook, man. One might have one arm, but he can probably do more than you. The camera to me is just a tool just to capture what I already see. I mean, most people would say that, but when you see with one eye, it's already there. You're like, I would show people my photos and they would be like, oh, you have a great eye for photography. I was like, I literally have one. We have our differences, man. We don't align. And that's the beauty about life, you know. Nobody has the same DNA, man. Nobody has the same blood. We are all different in our own right. I was my own entertainer. I made myself laugh. I made myself food, you know. I mean, I would just indulge in myself, you know. So you don't necessarily need to be in a room of 50 people to know that you're loved, you know.
Welcome back to another episode. My name is Aaron Darko. Welcome to the Aaron Darko Show. And today's guest is Elton Peters, Asemota.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, man.
And he is an Irish Nigerian. The only Irish Nigerian I know. So, welcome, my friend.
Thanks for having me. I feel like an NFT, to be honest, out here.
And he's a multifaceted artist.
That's
and
right.
You do a lot of things to do with music.
Thank you. Yeah. Music, not just, I wouldn't put myself under one umbrella. Like, I've had my hands busy for as long as I remember. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just music, but just the process of creation.
Yeah.
Music, expressive art, drawing, photo, audio, visual. That was all intertwined. Like as soon as I came out my mother's womb. So I mean, my purpose is to create. Created by the creator to create, and for people to feed off of that, because, you know, like, my freedom of expression is through creating, showing people what I see, what I hear, and what I feel. Mm-hmm. And once people can really convey with that and interpret that, it brings me joy, like instant gratification. So
when did you know that this is what you're supposed to be doing, being a creator?
Wow. It really goes back to, like, my early days of being in Nigeria, and we'll get a bit deeper on that, but that's a part of my testament. I have fond memories of just, like, beating rhythms on the door in Nigeria, and, like, even my parents would remind me of that, like, you know, you were always, like, very vibrant and always, like, very, very aware of my surroundings, like, even in the church or where my dad was playing, you know, vinyl, playing Fela Kuti, Fela Day, and Sonny Okosin, so just some names, but I was very, very aligned with music and sounds, you know, at the time, just from a very early age. And even my mom was, like, somewhat of a singer at that time, choir, you know, like, it's like West Africa in those, like, those years of the early 70s, 80s, whatever, but as long as I can remember, and, like, being in the church was always a way for people to kind of express themselves, like, through worship, singing. If you were in the worship group, singing, and that's music to you, you know. Music was like church, you know. Even if you weren't religious, music was still church, you know. So yeah, started banging those rhythms on those drums, on those door panels in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And slowly the years came by. I kind of picked up my guitar at the age of 10, and then had lessons. And I was always curious, like, at the time, like, how were these sounds developed? How does one compose that? How do you hear a tangible sound, you know, on vinyl? Like, how does it get to that point, A to B to Z, you know, like, so, like, a part of me was always very curious about the process and how to create. So even though I started guitar pretty early, flute, And drums, that even just in itself I wanted to plunge a bit deeper into the world of making music, you know, for myself. And for other people to feel, because I would always like beatbox and stuff, like people found that intriguing, but I was like, that wasn't enough. I really wanted to, I had sounds in my head that I couldn't express just through like tangible instruments. So I was like, hey, how do I, this was like at the time, like, you know, started production, like maybe 2013, I got my first keyboard, and I kind of delved into the world of like music production. And then that kind of opened up a world of its own. So that led to just me putting all these sounds together, and I kind of came to the conclusion that, yeah, maybe people want to hear this. So I spent maybe like 6-7 months of just trying to get the basis of production and mixing, just a better understanding of that. And then I was like, in itself, just very, very wary of how people would interpret my what I'd interpret in my head, you know, because for so long I was, I would always see colors or associate colors with sounds, only to understand that I was actually synesthetic in some way. So that's kind of like I don't know how to describe it, but I see a series of patterns and sound, and when I hear particular sounds. So different chords will convey a different pattern or color on any given moment. It doesn't have to be a musical note, but just you know, the construction work in Peranana, like everyday construction work, I'll hear certain tones and intricacies in everyday life that will actually bring these little sensory analysis imagery to my head. But yeah, music production, yeah, slowly, yeah, turned into something more serious. So I just started to produce with friends. Went to New York for some time, and then I started producing with other friends. And then somehow I kind of gathered a little like following on SoundCloud at the time. Not big by any means, but just to have people at the time at such a young age, a tender age of 18, to like what you did, what you compiled in your head, like was mind blowing to me. To, you know, in any way possible, like just putting something out there and people resonating with it was just incredible. So yeah, that opened up a can of worms, and then I've just been in love with the process, creating. So yeah, that has led to just composing for game studios and, you know, advertising companies, and then ads. Love this coconut water, by the way. Yeah, I don't want to speak about my accolades, but yeah, long story
Please do, man.
I mean, I'm humble, man. Come on, man. I took some coconut water. I complimented it. But yeah, I'm not here to flex, but I'm just here to glorify the process of creation. And yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but you said you're not here to flex, right? But there's some people, maybe they're, because, you know, in a lot of the adults listening, a lot of people, in my experience, just talking to people, they suppress their creative side. And so one of the reasons you're on is because you've embraced that and you've had a great career out of it, right? So the accolades will inspire those people to focus on their creative side, because maybe that's actually their true calling. Because there's a lot of people that they make a lot of money, but they do something that they don't really feel excited by. But it pays the bills and it affords them a great lifestyle. And there's a lot of people like that. So that's why I've got you on, so you can share like the creative side, so people can get in touch with that again. Yeah, and inspire them to really have more fun. You know, because it's fun for you, right?
It is. Creating. Yeah. I mean, part of it isn't even about the money. Like, I do stuff willingly because I love it. You know, money is not really that motivating driving factor for me. You know, I just love creating. So if touch on music, video, photo, like I've kind of like dabbled into all of those mediums, and I've felt like this, it's undescribable, this attachment just for conveying like just the visual elements and audible elements of life. And yeah, I mean, even like picking up my camera at like 17, I remember at the time my mom had a store, and I was like, was like really keen about photography, you know. I mean, the basis of that is like, you know, like I didn't even touch on that, but the genesis of this all is because I'm seeing everything in 2D. So when you're seeing from a 2D perspective, everything's already put into light, you know, everything's already, everything already comes to light. So when I'm taking a photo, not even taking it, when I'm looking at a subject, like the way you are now, the lighting, the composition is already there. So all it is for me is to just capture the shutter. So if Elon Musk is listening right now, I'd love to have some AI in my eye, just to capture those moments. But yeah, the camera to me is just a tool just to capture what I already see. I mean, most people would say that, but when you see with one eye, it's already there. You're like, I would show people my photos and they would be like, oh, you have a great eye for photography. I was like, I literally have one. So
so for the listeners, Elton has one eye. If you're listening to this, if you're watching, obviously you can't really, I don't know if you can see.
Can you see it? Is this in 4K? Zoom in if it's in 4K, baby, you know?
yeah. Tell the editors.
Do double zoom if you want. Yeah, so like, not that it's my identity to say that I have one eye, but I have to really surrender and accept that's who I am.
Yeah.
So like, the basis of that was, you said, you know, people will get confused when I introduce myself. I'm Irish Nigerian, you know, not that I have Irish Nigerian parents. I don't. I was born in one country and I was raised in the other one, you know. It's fine to identify as one or the other. You were
born in Nigeria.
Born in Nigeria, grew up in Ireland. People say, how does it come to that? How does a Nigerian end up in Ireland?
That's why I asked you.
What's he doing? What's he doing? Are you crazy? Like, first of all, where's your accent? I said my accent is back home, to be honest. So if you want to flight economy class on EasyJet, be my guest. So like,
say number three.
Tree. So as soon as you assume that I'm not Irish, ask me to say the numbers. Then I'm exposing myself. But yeah, how does a Nigerian guy end up in Ireland in the in 2000? Like, you know, the start of Y2K. Is that Y2K?
Yeah.
Sorry, Y2K people, if I upset you, but so born in Benin, Nigeria. Let me not butcher this if my family are watching, but 95. Yes, I do look 38, but that's on a good day. And healthy baby, no faults at all, you know. I came out bald actually, as you see today. So, and yeah, it was fine and dandy, you know. Healthy baby. I don't know what did they say. People born at 7:55 a.m., 5 ounces, you know. But yeah, everything was fine. I'm the eldest of 4, and I think it got to the age of 3 where I had this incident where I don't know the contents of the incident, but that incident led to getting a cataract, and that cataract was the catalyst as to why I had to, even why I'm talking to you today, because of that moment in my life. Adversity, whatever you want to call it, it's led to that point. And when I even look back, like, what if the doctors never prompted my family to go abroad to get surgery? What if none of this happened? I might have been in the choir in Nigeria. I don't know. But like, cataract, you have to get it treated.
Where were you at this point?
This was in Lagos, Nigeria, and even at the time, we were on national television because you know, my family, the Asemota, is on both sides. You know, we were, I don't know, maybe somewhat known, I guess.
Rich family?
I don't know, man. We were good. I'm not trying to flex. I don't know if it's rich, but yeah, I mean,
were you doing better than everyone else? comparatively.
Yeah.
You had more than
to some extent,
kids.
some degree, yeah. We knew a lot of people. I mean, I had my birthday in, I think, was it in an arena or a center, and the governor of Nigeria was there. I think I still have that on VHS, so we put a clip up of it right there. Make sure to get that. I did it. We're getting paid extra. So it was, if anybody's watching this from Nigeria, I hope you're watching now. But we had the friends that had the biggest the television network at the time, or still to this day in Nigeria, Africa. Silverbed, have you heard of them?
Nope.
Yeah.
I've never been there.
Yeah. I think your parents might, but they really encouraged us to. Obviously, we knew ourselves, but they're like Ben Bruce. If you're watching this, thank you. He kind of pushed us. He's like, you have to go. He's a Scottish Nigerian guy, and he was like, you guys need to make this move. It's for the best of your son's ability. This is the way forward. And obviously the incredible outpouring of love in Nigeria, like being on national television was wild, because I have pinpoint memory. It's wild. We were in Lagos, and I was getting interviewed, and I was maybe out 3, and it made rounds around the news, like, Elton, Baba, Asemotas are going to London to have the cataract surgery, and I remember the reporter asked me, Elton, how do you feel about going to London? Dude, I was so stoked about, those shoes that lit up every time you walked.
Yeah.
I was just like, look at my shoes. That's all I cared about. I actually didn't know what was happening at the time. 3 years old, what else do you know? You're on a massive 50-story building, and your shoes are lighting up, and then you're seeing yellow taxis below. Like that was what was lit to me. But yeah, at the time we make the move to London. This was around 99, I believe. My brother was around 2-3 years old, and I still remember the doctor's name that performed the cataract surgery on me to remove that cataract, Dr. Schulenberg, from Germany at the time, or Turkish German, either one of those, maybe mixed. And even like at the time, my mom specifically would always document things on the VHS, and I remember I still need to contact her to get all of this footage, but she made a montage, or her and some other people made a montage of the surgery. You look back on those Netflix documentaries, and you see those VHS recordings. Elton, how do you feel about this? It's like I'm waiting for this Netflix film to pitch. No, I'm joking. But I remember the praise worship songs that they had on the video. There was one that had it went by, "We will make a way," so God will make a way. I can't remember the rest of the lyrics, but I just remember that ringing in my head till this day, And I haven't watched that video in 20 odd years, maybe. But I watched it when I still remember that video, and I still remembered how I felt at that time. Just a cluster of confusion. I was like, you're 4 years old and you're getting cataract surgery, and settled in London for however long it was, So it's like, when I talk to English people, I just say I'm from Welling, or just like Lewisham. So that depends. But settled in Lewisham for a bit, and then, the way people always interpret this, like I said earlier, why Ireland? And it didn't dawn on me until earlier. I asked my mom, why Ireland? Because everybody at that time settled in London. Everybody of African descent. As you know, like growing up in London, you're a bit older than me, but you look younger than me, but it's okay. But everybody, late 90s was African descent or descended from Africa, went to London. Who in the right mind is going to say, let us go to Ireland? The plantain is fresh there. Like, there's still people to this day that I've met here don't even know what Ireland looks like. What does that say about Ireland?
Yeah.
Love you, Ireland, but I don't. At the time, Ireland wasn't. Michael Flatley, the Riverdance, like who knew what did you know about Ireland in the 90s?
Nothing.
And so I think I take that from my parents, like just the sheer curiosity, like the spontaneity, like let's go to Ireland in the late 90s. Wild. That's still wild today, dude.
It is.
That's like an Eddie Murphy coming to Ireland. Forget coming to America, man. It's like coming to Ireland. I'm Eddie Murphy, way from Dublin. So it's like to Ireland. I think we settled in, I'm not sure if it was Dublin, but in this small little region. It's a province. So you have province, and it's made of different cities. Cities would be, whatever. I mean, it's Dublin City, whatever, but we were in the southwest, so in a city called Cork. Though we were located in a small town called Bandon, so about 6,000 inhabitants. And that's still wild, like for an African family, to come from London in Welling is not Lewisham, but Lewisham, still a highly populated African dense area in London, and then to come to a highly homogeneous area in the southwest of Ireland where there's no plantain. It's wild. 6,000 inhabitants, probably still the same to this day. I'm like, what? So we settled there, and what I do remember I remember a lot, but mind you, I did have the cataract surgery done, right? The eyes were like this, so it looked nothing like this at this time. I remember the community welcomed us with open arms. The community, meaning by the church community, because my parents are very instilled in West Africans. They literally sleep in church because it's so boring.
Yep.
Blood of Jesus.
Did you go to church today?
Did you go to church today? I will spank you. Did you go to church today was like worse than being asked if you did your homework.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so we were in the Baptist community, and the Baptist community, they for the most part are very, very tolerable and like welcoming. Just such humility within that community, and like for them to see us in that light. Oh, you're from Nigeria. Where in England is that? Not that they said it, but I'm sure people were quite aware of where Nigeria was. We're providing you oil. Well, maybe not, but we were welcomed with open arms and by the community, and they had this welcoming party for us. Like, we just met them, but that was a testament to how much of a Emerald Isle and a greeting community that Ireland bestows, and even till this day, like people ask me what Ireland's like. I'm gonna give you a piece of Ireland here. Like, we're just nice people, and like with that being said, like anything that we needed at the time, because we're just settling, trying to figure out the ins and outs. They're like, oh wow, you're welcome here. Anything you need, they invite us to conventions. This church is literally community, like if remove the church, you have people, but without the people, it's not church. That's how I look at church. Church is community. Church is the premise, not the building, but the people that surround that are within that space. So everybody welcomed us, and made my friends, so on and so forth. And I think this was just early 2000, and pushing by the next 2 years. I remember it was the World Cup, 2002. Was that? Yeah. Wow. Everything's flashing back before my very eyes, or I should say. It was me and my younger brother. It was just me and my younger brother at the time. We had a new space, new house. And just as normal brothers would do, would have child's play, you know. We had like some decor in the kitchen, and there was this like a basket with like artificial fruit. Don't ask me why there's artificial fruit in the basket, man. I still haven't asked my parents, but and I was at one end of the house or the room, and then my brother was at the other end. And, you know, this is like, still very vivid to me, and just throwing things at one another, and then within a blink of an eye, man, the biggest piece of artificial fruit in that basket, which was an orange, somewhat, not as big as that, maybe like half, but like just the thickness and the volume it had, that was thrown at me. No malice involved, obviously. It was 2 or 3, no ill intent. That thing hit my eye, the same eye with a cataract. And let me tell you, man, I can't put into words the pain that I experienced. I know you women give birth, but yo, it's not about me. But that pain was like no other. And I still remember just being in such agony, and my dad actually called the ambulance, rushed me to ICU. And that would be the trajectory of my childhood, in and out of the hospital. That blow on my eye resulted in my retina detaching.
Whoa, fuck.
So I can't really, you can't really fathom or put into words the pain, the mental pain, but the physical pain as well that you have to endure during that ordeal was like no other, man. Like I was screaming in the ambulance, and my dad would console me, and my dad being completely blind himself, that's irony.
He's blind?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Irony. EYE. Rennie. Bad joke. Do you hear the crickets? Oh, here we're in Bali. Yeah, so people,
I got that. I'm a bit
thank
slow.
you, man. Round of applause in the chat, guys. Yeah, because my dad, that this was not a hereditary how I happened to, you know, but his I think his glasses were stolen, whatever, and when he was pretty young, and then at the time, I guess the resources weren't there in the 60s in Nigeria, and that led to just his eyesight deteriorating. But yeah, my dad bringing me in the hospital, because I think, as far as I don't know if my mom was at work at the time, but literally being rushed in that hospital, asking myself what is going on, like that was like still very vivid, because with trauma you can't unthink these moments, you know. They're very much so clear in your head for as long as you can exist, you know. But it just depends on how you want to interpret those moments, you know. Use it for good or for worse, you know. So leading into the hospital, that was my retina being detached, but the eye's somewhat intact. But that's leading up to a slew of surgeries, man. Dude, I can't count on my hand. Obviously don't have enough hands to count on how many those surgeries were, but it was it's like excruciating, because every time I'll be in the hospital, it's like at this point, like the nurses were like my friends, man. My mom would send me pictures not too long ago of me in the hospital, and you could see my expression and body language. I just did not want to be there, man, because I didn't fully gauge what was going on with my life at that time. I just thought it was a process. I thought it was, maybe a checkup, but yeah, I was aware it was in my eye, but I was like, maybe it's just some extended stuff, whatever that they need to do. But like the trajectory of the good span of your childhood in and out of the hospital was, taxing mentally. So I'm in the hospitals, and it's like, okay, Elton, you need to come in for surgery now. I have to surrender, man. But I won't, because they would have to bring in 6 doctors to pin me down.
You were fighting too.
Dude, I still remember how the anesthesia smelled. Anesthesia, right? Oh my goodness, man. Dude, I was fighting like for my life. I don't want to be doing this. I don't know. God knows if I was cussing there. I don't know what swear words were trending at the time, but every word came out of my mouth. They had to pin me down. Anesthesia, and that would be surgery after surgery after surgery after surgery. But it didn't really affect my, well, that was at the time, but later on, but having the surgeries done, you know, it was just like, oh, yeah, there's new medication today, you're gonna be put on steroids, whatever, just to kind of keep the eye intact. So this is maybe from the age 4 till that incident to 4, 5, 6, 7. As I'm in and out of the hospital, I'm very much so involved in like sports at the time. And yeah, I was very active in Irish sports.
In between the surgeries?
No, even after.
Okay.
But like surgeries was very early on in my childhood. But I remember participating in Irish Gaelic sports at the time, and like I'm going a bit ahead of the timeline, but I had a very keen eye for sports, like literal keen eye. And God, man, you didn't see that coming, did you guys? I didn't either, man, to be honest with you. So yeah, as I progress, I'm active, you know, I love sports, but people would point out but this thing, you know, that I wasn't fully able to comprehend, you know. Oh, Elton, I don't think it's hit me, but it's like, hey, Elton, your eye's kind of losing its shape, or it's looking a bit off, man. I'm like, it doesn't clock. Getting older.
So before that, so the result of all the surgeries was your eye was still intact?
It was somewhat.
Okay.
Trying to, you know, those surgeries had to, because once one experiences a cataract and a retinal detachment, I don't think there's much hope in that light, because it's like probably not two of the worst casualties that could happen, but in most cases, you know, these casualties happen to people that just don't have the resources in Africa and stuff, like, you know, people that, you know, you're in Rwanda, whatever, your kid has a cataract because of the resort, you know. Having a blow to the eye with an orange, like at such a high rate of speed, you know, it just completely demolishes it. So I guess that was my eye kind of like, yeah, giving up at that point. So I'm like getting older, people are pointing it out. I'm realizing that my eyesight is kind of shifting towards here, though my senses are a bit more aware, from smelling to taste to hearing, a bit more receptive to things, you know. But people are saying, hey, your eye so and so. But I'm getting older, and you can see it, like even in the photo books from back in the day, as my mom would just always take photos, you know. You could see my eye slowly losing its proportion and getting discolored, and eventually there was a time I came back from PE, and it was during PE, and then I had to halt, and I was like, there's something going on. Everything was about disproportionate. Everything was this way. It wasn't even a medication. I don't know what it was at the time, but I got home and then I started seeing in black and white from both eyes. You know, I still had some kind of eyesight here, but I started seeing in black and white in both eyes. And then the doctor, because going to the doctor was like seeing your best friend at this point, man. It's like, hey, man, what's up with your eye today? You know, like, oh wow. And it was like, Elton, I think you've got a loss of silicone oil on your left eye that triggered the loss of color in visual depth. So I literally, for a moment, maybe for an hour or two, was seeing in black and white. I was a 1920s film dude. Damn. That silicone oil triggered it. And then further on, getting older, 7, 8, my eyesight my eye literally stops growing. As you can see,
Stop what?
It stops growing. You see how one's a bit, well, it's not a bit, it's more than a bit. Well, one is more than the other, you know? Mm-hmm. This one grew, but this stopped growing. Lack of enzymes, whatever. Mm-hmm. And despite the medication, that kind of end result led to like a complete loss of sight on my left eye.
At what age was that?
This is, man, 8, 9, or 10, one of those, because I like I said, like, referring to the photo albums that we had at the photo books, I could see it. I could see the progression slowly. But even like pictures taken with my siblings, you know, I could also see that my eyes were intact. Like they called me Steve Urkel back in the way. They you know, I had those huge eyes and the big glasses, you know. Mm-hmm. So I think that was around, I can't really pinpoint an actual timeline or an age, but I think it was around 8 or 9. So, yeah, just, it's still wild to process this, you know.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what did you make that mean? Like with this event that happened, what did you make that mean as a kid? Like you got hit in the eye with an orange by your brother. Like what meaning are you attaching to that event? Like what was the story that you create? Because, you know, there's things that happen to us and then we create a story about those things.
Yeah. True adversity, you can turn it into beauty, you know, or find the beauty within it. And that's what I've found and I've accepted throughout my years of creating, actually, expressing that through my creativity, you know. Because like I said, like losing one sense will enhance the others. It's not a coincidence that I make music or smell good. Do I smell good? I appreciate you, man. Thank you, man. I said I'm not gonna flex, but too late. Sorry, guys. But I love smells. Yeah. I could smell some peppermint oil.
Actually, the first thing Elton said when he came in the room was he smelled the peppermint.
Right.
So yeah, you're heightened your senses.
Exactly. And if you're bullshitting, I'm gonna smell that from 100 meters, dude. You know, I know when you're capping.
Yeah.
But like the sense of smell, sounds, taste, like all of that in itself is look, man. It's not until it happens until you realize, this is something everybody takes for granted, man. It's truly an amazing sensory, like a habitual, God-given gift that we all have. But until you really lose one, it will put things in perspective and really show you how we can utilize those things, you know. If you look at like blind people that are, you know, like my dad is completely blind, but this man is the most able man that I've ever came to know, you know, like to be able to, because I think people think of blind people as just inept and they just sit down every. No, they're even more occupied than people with all their senses, you know. Look at you've seen archeries, like people that do archery with just a foot, like, you know, what else? I mean, there's a slew of examples, but, you know, like I always say, man, within that word of disability, there's always going to be an ability. So it's something that we shouldn't overlook, man. One might have one arm, but he can probably do more than you. he'll probably fix you up with a slap, and you'd never know he had one arm, you know? I don't advocate violence, man. Will Smith, if you heard that, I would recommend you shouldn't watch this. It's not for you. Any Will Smith fans, please like the video. But yeah, I just like losing this sense has been a blessing in itself, you know, because I'm seeing and feeling and I'm experiencing the everyday life activities. But it's like it's every day is different to me. It's like, you know, I'm walking down a gang and I'm smelling this incredible whatever Ibu's making, you know, just the smells, like the notes. I pay attention to the specific like the notes in fragrances and I love to cook as well. I don't cook as often, but I think what's one thing about losing the sense is that you have a heightened awareness for taste in general, you know. But what was I alluding to? Because I get off on some mad tangents.
We were talking about the heightened senses that you have, and the abilities that you have.
Music,
you know, yes,
music as well.
Music,
like
the reason why you do music.
It's like I'll hear details and frequencies that the average listener wouldn't hear. You know, I'm like I know where to put things into place. You know, and then with having this journey, synesthesia, it's like everything to me is like an experience, man. Part of the reason why I haven't dabbled in anything, because I literally trip from seeing sounds, man. It's wild to even say that, you know. So it's a God-given experience to have like one less sense than the other, you know. I love it. I love the process, really.
So when you were 8, you lost your eyesight.
Around 8,
right?
Right.
And then you got into music. Did you start becoming more creative?
I got more creative. So yeah, that's a great segue. When I entered primary school, you guys call it primary school, wherever you guys are, elementary school, whatever. I think it was the first. This was earlier. It was before I had the eye incident. I remember it was junior infants. I think my mom packed a really nice, healthy, nutritious meal, and I had a raw carrot. And this is me transitioning into that new school, you know. Didn't know anybody. Was the only black kid in the premise, in the school, I believe. Yeah, in the school. It was like I literally felt like an NFC at the time. Wow, mint me, guys. And I remember pulling out the carrot from my lunchbox and instantaneously got laughed at because everybody in that classroom had like your typical, I don't know if Sunny D's were a thing in Ireland, but you know, this is the era of Sunny D's and like Mars bars, Snickers, just all that processed junk. I can't remember what else my mom put back in my lunch, but it was a very nutritious meal. I think we were thinking from a Nigerian mindset, you know. So I was laughed at, and I dude, like, not even vaguely, it's very, very vivid. I was bawling my eyes out. I had 2 eyes, so I can say eyes. Bawling my eyes out completely, and I didn't know what they were laughing at me. I think that was maybe a cultural shift in my life at the time, knowing that having a carrot in your lunchbox wasn't the norm in Ireland in 2002, 2001. And I remember I was pulled aside from this teacher. I think she was an assistant. I've never met her at the time. Ida Maher. And she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Yeah, they're laughing at you. They're laughing at me, I should say." And yeah, I had a carrot, and they're like, "Yeah, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You are you. You are you." And it stuck to me. From that day on, that was the very moment that I knew I was different. Not because I had a carrot in my lunchbox, but that teacher pointed out the qualities in me. From that day on, we would have like coloring exercises, and that was for me to express myself. I would color the character with different Pantone or like different shades and stuff, you know. And Mrs. Maher would actually like point it out in front of the class, and people would be like, "Oh, this is cool. You're not using normal skin color." And that was the same teacher that also saw that I could sing, had the ability to play instruments, had somewhat of a sense of humor at that tender age. She saw all of those qualities in me. And I'll never forget, you know, she was my mentor at that time, you know. I think she's still in the town that I was raised in to this day, because there's moments where my mom would call and she's like, "Oh, there's someone on the phone for you." It's like, "Oh," and it's like somebody from my past childhood that's still there. And I think there's been many occasions where she's been there, but I haven't been around because, you know, the time zone's crazy. But Mrs. Maher, yeah, she saw the qualities that I had that I didn't see at the time, and she was able to kind of foresee that. And as I got older, she encouraged me to play guitar, amongst my other friends, and I started guitar like 10 or 11. Got, what's his name? Mr. Callahan. I'm very specific with details, as you can see, but learned guitar. And at the time, you know, it's Ireland, and you're in somewhat of a Catholic school, and you do your communion, your communion, and then your confirmation. What I did for my communion, I think it was Mrs. Maher that encouraged me. She said, "Not only are you good in the choir, but you should bring an instrument." Was it the communion or the confirmation? It was either or, but imagine being in a Catholic church. You have an African boy banging rhythms on a demba, a Congo drum in the early 2000s. That is wild. That's not even a Netflix series, dude. That's wild, and that's what happened. She encouraged that, and I was like, "This is this was so out of the ordinary." And I remember, you're playing bongo drums over a Latin Catholic, you know, hymn is wild, and I still remember that. And that day forward was like, oh wow, I could do stuff differently than anybody else, you know. And she really pushed that narrative forward that I was different from that day on, from having my carrot in the lunchbox and pulling me aside. And, you know, as hard as she was on me, it was for the best, because that discipline really, it struck me. I cried sometimes, you know. I was very sensitive. I mean, I'm probably sensitive today in some ways than another, but, you know, I would cry because I would think that was, oh, you were pressuring me to, you know, because it was beyond mentorship of music or whatever. Like, I would have like extracurricular activities, maths and games and stuff like that. So she took me under her wing, and I learned a lot. I don't think if it wasn't for her, I would be the anomaly that I am today, you know.
It's powerful.
As a creative, you know.
It's powerful, the effect that one person can have on your life
at
such an early age, right? Because your parents didn't do that. They were supportive in their own way.
They were, yeah, that's right.
But not in the way that you needed at that time, right? Like, you needed that. Otherwise, what could have happened if she didn't say that? You'd be like, fuck, I'm not like the rest of them.
Hey man, I'd be in Lidl or something at Aldi. I don't know, man. No offense if you are, man. Do your thing, man. I love your cheese, by the way. Really good cheese. But yeah, it's a great point, man. I really don't know. Because I think in the system, the educational system that we're in today, well, even as far back as 50 years ago, they never celebrated your qualities. They'd focus on your weaknesses and then heighten that. And then why do you think young children have like mental health issues? And, you know, why are we so focused on how well we should do in academics. It's great, but we need to really put more emphasis on what you're good at, what qualities you have, and then we need to celebrate that. Everybody should know about your qualities, because we're focused on how one should do in a maths test, when in reality that's not going to help them in the real world. It's like, is a cop going to pull you aside and say, solve this problem? You pull out a log table and you still don't know the problem. Cost equals sin. That's a terrible maths formula that I never knew, but I mean, like, I can't even solve X, man.
With the algebra and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, algebra is like I said, the cop's not gonna pull you aside and give you an algebra equation, is he? No. So it's like, I don't know how the curriculum is today, but we need to really pinpoint what the younger generation, like, I know, like Gen Z and Gen Y, we're at a height of like just like an unlimited range of content right now. Like, the content is at an all-time high. You have kids that are making straight up pop songs, like number one hits out of their bedrooms, you know, making state-of-the-art formulas for cancer. I mean, it's beyond me, but I think as we're slowly progressing as a generation, as a human species, that we're coming to terms that our kids are the future, really.
And I'd add to that, I think if there was more what's his name? Mrs. Mayer, what's her name?
Mrs. Maher. Yeah.
We
need more Mrs. Mahers.
I don't have the Irish accent.
Maher. I'll talk in an Irish accent from now on. How about that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
How about that?
Yeah, so I think if we had more of her in the world, like more people like her.
Crazy, right?
Imagine like all the, because what she did there is she empowered you, right? So she made you aware of things that you weren't necessarily aware of yourself.
Just a young, vulnerable, somewhat kid, unaware. She made me aware. She made me aware. I mean, from the education to beyond education, and in fact, if it wasn't for her, like, she gave me salmon and cheese on crackers. That was the first time I had it in my life. I'm not joking. And from that day on, I haven't stopped eating salmon and cheese and crackers. I was like, this is what y'all have? I ain't never had this shit in Nigeria, man. Oh my God. I had salmon. She was like, because she would rave about it. And I'm like, when at what point are you gonna have it in your lunchbox? She's like, yeah, I've got and then a lunch break, or even like, because she would come in and out of the class to give, just to check on, inspect on any students that are, you know, misbehaving or just like that need any type of assistance. But she was like, Elton, I have cheese and salmon today. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, I don't even talk about that enough. Like, I literally had my first ever salmon and cheese on crackers from her. So thank you, Mrs. Maher.
Have you spoke to her recently? Or in the last few years?
She hasn't seen me.
No.
You've just sparked something now. Mrs. Maher, if you're watching this, I've probably already called you. But she still remains in the same town. And piggybacking off what I said earlier, when my mom would call me, Mrs. Maher, she would, like, very seldom, but like every few months, or every few times in a year, she would always bump into Mrs. Maher. You know what she would say? How's Elton? I haven't seen her since primary school.
Wow. So
this is actually something I will consider, because, you know, I've changed in just the past 4 or 5 years, you know, from hair to no hair. Actually, I was born without hair. How about that? Yeah, take that. Alopecia. No, I'm joking, man. If you're suffering from alopecia, I support you. G.I. Jane 3 coming soon. But yeah, this is yeah. I owe a lot to her. She has really shaped just my external views on most things, you know, like just to have somebody to celebrate you just to welcome you with open arms, like at such a tender age, but not just that, but just to see the potential that you have for the world, you know. She knew that I would be singing. She knew that I'd be making music. She saw this in like as if she had a crystal ball, you know, and everything just came into fruition. So yeah, if it wasn't for her, I really don't know if I would have. Because when you're at such a young age, like having a support system is it's a given, really. You need it, but most people don't have it. Kind of results in how they interpret and how they, you know, divulge things. Because, you know, if you don't have someone to push you or say this or say that, then it's kind of a testament to how you would be. So yeah, coming back off of that, we were talking about my eye. That's around 8. But even, yeah, going back from Mrs. Maher, and then 8 years old, like losing my eyesight, talked about that, but it's like the basis of that was like, how would I cope? So you have this pictures. You have an 8-year-old boy from Nigeria in this completely new world. Is constantly in and out of the hospital, comes out to the real world, and then results in losing his eye, you know, and then looks a certain way. An anomaly, like, as I would say. You don't look like anybody else. So that there becomes a great deal of self-awareness, but I don't have it. So it's every day a life like going to the market with my mom. What would that entail? Oh yeah, I'm just going about my daily life with my mom, strolling through the market. You see one kid or whoever with their parent, and that kid points out to me, or points out to their parent, and they echo, what happened to his eye? This is a constant, man. Constant, that it festered so long into my mind that I didn't know who I was, you know. I self-actualized to a point where I actually had no idea what was going on. Like, it was demoralizing. Why are people saying this? Why do I have to look like this? Do I have to continue like this? Why can't I have a normal eye? And then I was like, I wasn't like anything. I didn't know how to process what was going on. So the continuation of that, getting older, that builds no character at all. Like, I have no, as I am now, very charismatic and open and, you know, extroverted, man. That was not me. That was not me even 10 years ago. I mean, even at that small age of 8 or 9, you know, you're like, wait, what is actually going on, and how do I solve this? So yeah, as I was getting older, it just continued to relay in my head, man. What is my purpose, and why did I look like this? Why am I here? I just want to be looked at as a normal person, you know. And the only way to kind of really deflect that, or to cope with it was just to be, you know, just to cover it with humor. So yeah, I mean, like, it's self-deprecation is crazy for most people, but that's how I deal with it, you know. Like, even to this day, like, comedy to me is how I deal with my insecurities, you know. So even in primary school, I was reluctant to talk with people. Yeah. it was social, but I wasn't really the chatty type, you know. I had my birthdays in school, but, you know, moving forward, like progressing, wasn't social as well, entering secondary school, but you can imagine, who was the class clown? It was me. So I would always say some things, you know, back and forth. Just a lot of humor. But that was just a way for me to cope with what I was dealing with, you know. So it was secondary school, still in a way, just I couldn't interpret what was happening to me, you know, from even a social and internal mindset. I would go to like parties at the time, but I wasn't extroverted at all. Like I couldn't make eye contact with people because I was so envious of what they had, which was a normal eye. It was so deeply rooted, like, and people from the outside, like, they wouldn't understand, but like until it happens to you, then it kind of makes sense, you know. But it's like, what? It got to an extent where I was like really contemplating to get a prosthetic eye.
Wow.
Which is, now it sounds ridiculous. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, but yeah, I was on the brink of getting a prosthetic eye. And
why does it sound ridiculous now?
Because why would I want to look like an actual normal person versus this one-of-one guy? I don't know who else looks like me other than Fetty Wap, but not even Fetty Wap, man. I'll be honest. Fetty Wap does not look as good as me. Fetty Wap doesn't even have a pupil. But like, people will recognize me because of the obvious factor, you know, or maybe because you can hear me from a mile away. But that's one and the other. But it's like, I have a memorable face. Like I've been told, oh, your eye looks like the sky, you know. In a way, it's kind of enticing, you know. It's like, oh, it pulls you in. Like, you know, people are like, wow, this thing glows in the dark. Yeah, man, I'll show you. But it's like, wow, man, you look a certain way. So like, as you asked, like, why was it weird that I wanted to have a prosthetic? It would just take away from the personality that I have, I should say, you know, the uniqueness, and then embracing that, which I've really embraced now for maybe the past 8 years. Yeah. Which is the hardest part. Yeah,
because the social implications of that, like, huge, especially at a young age. Like, wondering, like, fuck, why do I look like this? You know, just constantly questioning yourself.
Despite knowing what led up to it, but like I said, surrendering to those experiences was arguably one of the best things that can happen to anybody in life. Just accept that, you know, life is non-linear. You're gonna have some bumps. Look at it as the Bitcoin scale right now. I mean, look at it. Life is a Bitcoin chart, like, literally.
It is, yeah.
It literally is, man. Because it's gonna be up slopes, down slopes, and you have to really embrace it. So for me, it was like, wow, you know, I mean, secondary school the teachers would point out, Elton, you're different. The way I carried myself, the music I listened to, the way I talked, just my external view on the world, you know, going to places, you know, that people wouldn't go at the time, you know, doing the out of the ordinary things, you know, at that age was something that I really hold myself to, you know, like just being myself, like just being you, like not following any trends or look, I'd wear socks and sandals, like you see me out here, man.
You're that guy.
Yeah, I'm that guy. You know, you've seen me a couple of times, man. Yeah, I'll just do my own thing, you know, and that was like. That was how I was growing up, like even in high school, like and I was my own self. So like even listening to music as well, like I would be listening to whoever, James Blake in 2011, but people would say that was weird, but I wouldn't care because I liked it. Growing up, I just saw so many people trying to be someone else and then getting caught up in the rapture of life and these crowds, like, because like you are your own self, man. The only competition is you and nobody else. You look in the mirror, that's you. You're against. But as I said, I went. Going through the years of secondary school, I was very quiet, man. I had no social skills. I had no social skills at all because of. I looked at this as a hindrance, and there was no Mrs. Maher in secondary school. Unfortunately, I had to be my own Mrs. Maher. Like I had to. Chest is out. I had to just be the bigger man and take things on the chin, and I couldn't accept that, that I was different. So that led to just me being very, very reclusive. I wouldn't go out, wouldn't really engage in any social activity. Hey, Elton, there's my friend is celebrating their 17th birthday. I would very seldom, but I would always bring my camera. Actually, yeah, everywhere I went, I brought my camera. Even if I couldn't speak to people, I would capture people communicating with one another, And that was, for me, a way to cope with the social anxiety, or however you may say it. At the time, I coped with that with a camera in my hand. So, yeah, as far as I remember, it's 16 to even to now, but yeah, I couldn't talk with people, and I think leading up to that, the end of secondary school, I went to college, and I think I made the very conscious decision to let go of these problems and be expressive. People knew in high school that I had a talent, a knack for creativity, design, because I was designing since I was like 10 or 11. I don't know, on my dad's old, those box PCs, Windows XP joints, and I remember I would always do like you remember Bebo? Bebo, that was like the MySpace at the time, but it was like the glory days were like 2006, 2005 to 2010. But I would always draw like or design. People had a thing called skins. There was like templates, backgrounds for people's profiles. I would start creating things from scratch, and then I slowly built a following. I was very young, and that really exposed me to the world of design. So even doing that through my secondary school years, I would always focus on making illustrations and animations rather than studying the biology paper. I was diligent for the most part, but coming back to when you told me what I wanted to do when I was younger, I already had the mindset of an artist since I was 10. It was already out there. I wasn't gonna be a fireman or a doctor or a pastor. I was gonna be a creative. So, as I said, when I went to college, I made a decision now. Let me just talk to these people. I studied multimedia, but I was like, hey, let me talk to these people, man. What do I have to lose? If it's just influencing one person with your story or whatever you have to say, then that's enough. You don't need to be heard by the whole of the world. Not that I wanted the attention, but I just didn't know how to express myself or talk with people. So I talked to some people, and then people thought I was funny. And I was like, what? And then, I started to be more forward about, not that I was obliged to tell people about my life, but, people look at you and people are curious. People have questions to ask, So why not answer them? Why not say something, because you never know. People can think of all of these assumptions that may never add up, in life. But from that day on, I looked back and I was like, hey man, I'm gonna talk to people. I'm gonna make them laugh. I'm gonna show them what I do. I'm gonna be expressive. But yeah, for the most part, I was just making that switch in your brain that, you know, you're able is something everybody should consider, you know, because self-doubt can really, really dictate how you look at life, you know. It can really, really consume you, and that was my mindset. It was just flustered with all of these negative thoughts, when you can just have some discourse with somebody and you know, things will actually clear up. That's why I value conversation, like right now.
Because of how that made you feel after you had that initial conversation when you're like, all right, I'm going to let this go.
Yeah.
That first conversation you had with this person, whoever it was.
Yeah, it was multiple people. Yeah. And it was like, this is not as bad, because even prior to that, I wasn't talking to people.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, high school is like a jail sentence, man. You know, you're locked in there for 7 years, and you have to abide by those rules, you know. And you're kind of trapped in this space with like people that you might not see yourself with, you know, in the coming years. But you know, it's just kind of you've limited experiences in high school, you know, and there's only so much things you can talk about in high school, you know. But yeah, I think is getting to leaving that space and then going into the bigger world, the third world college life, you know, that was for me, I saw the bigger picture of things. You meet more people, you're learning about more cultures, and you're learning more about yourself. So I think, you know, having a wider audience of people to talk to, you know, was incredible, you know, because you don't know these people. Whereas, you know, you're in high school and you're seeing the same people. It's not wild, seeing the same people for 7 years. But talking to me, like music, art, photo and video aside, talking to me is a freedom of expression, man. I can. It's one thing I've learned. You know, I value, like, you know, when we travel, we have a tendency of just being inside of this box. We want to know what's current, you know. We're in the terminal, and we're literally scrolling on our phones, and we're not really engaged about that person next to you with the Led Zeppelin jacket. That person with the Led Zeppelin jacket has probably thousands of stories to tell you, but you're in your ignorant self wanting to know what happened to John Terry, you know, like. But one thing I've learned is just to kind of like really disconnect and engage in discourse with whoever it is, because 9 times out of 10, it's like we assume that the people that may not have these common interests with us are, you know, not so interesting. But once you learn and talk with them, you have way more common interests than you think, you know, or mutual interests. So it's like I've learned to just start talking with random people. My Gojek, like, you know, like we're probably best friends now, even though I was late. But, you know, I've learned to really like just conversate with people. You know, it's such an important aspect that we need to actually celebrate in life, the art of talking, because, you know, we're just so caught up in everybody else, like so many other people's lives that aren't really important, you know, rather than your neighbor next door. You know, like, I think the most important thing to ask anybody is to ask how they are, because you just don't know. You just don't know. Even if you just ask them how they are, it's that those words in itself can just lighten up their day. So yeah, I love people like as a whole. I will talk to a stranger, and the beautiful thing about talking to strangers is that you might not know what may entail of that. But the thrill is like, even if you don't keep in touch, that memory still lasts in your mind for generations, you know?
Yeah, like people, that's interesting because you've done like a 180, right? Because before you were hiding behind your camera and you were like, fuck, I don't want to talk to anyone.
I don't care about people.
Yeah, and then now you're like, I love people.
I love people.
And it sounds like that was all through your decision to just let go of the judgment from other people, and make a decision to start communicating. Because you weren't communicating, you weren't expressing yourself.
Yeah, people.
You were using the camera to do that, but then you also still do that, but then you started actually using your voice as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Being able to tell your story, but to hear somebody else's story is even more gratifying. Because everybody's story has this essence to it. You cannot recreate one story because it's one of one. If we had to mint all of our stories into NFTs, we'd be freaking rich, dude. I'll tell you that. But I value storytelling, whether it's audible or the physical form. The importance of storytelling has been, it goes back like millions of years. The dinosaurs to the Bible, just think about how amazing the medium of a book has been,
Absolutely.
No matter what, we're always gonna turn back. Books till this day. The Bible, of course. Like, you know how old it is, and we still look at it. It's just a testament, pun intended, to how incredible the art of storytelling is, man.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what it is. Before we were talking about this podcast, and we were like, yeah, I was going to talk to you about your story, and you're like, yeah, man, that's all I got.
That's all, yeah, right. It's like I'm not here to give advice on cleanses or, no disrespect to anybody. Like I'm just here to speak my mind, and hopefully some kid in Kazakhstan in his super cold ass 20 square meter bedroom, I don't know, he's taking something from it, Shout out to everybody in Kazakhstan, by the way, but I really do feel like that. Yeah, everybody, you can have anybody on Joe Rogan's podcast or Stephen Bartlett. They don't have to be a CEO or a millionaire or have some sort of following, somebody is going to take something from that. Pull someone aside and ask them what they did 10 years ago. What's the most interesting thing you did? You're going to be mind blown at what they're going to say.
Exactly, yeah.
So to me, it's like, everybody needs to see their self in their highest form, Don't compare yourself. Don't say, oh man, I'm not as cool as you. I didn't experience that, man. It's not that. It's just experience and it's just differentiality. Like we have our differences, man. We don't align, and that's the beauty about life. Nobody has the same DNA, man. Nobody has the same blood. We are all different in our own right. I think that's something that needs to be. It's clear, but I think if we can really magnify that again, because we're really caught up in this whole rat race of life, Oh, I'm 26, but my friend, she has like a entrepreneurship company, and she's like 1 million followers, and I'm like. I'm still trying to pay my debt, student debt. It doesn't matter. Everybody's in their own time zone. That's one thing that people still don't gauge today. Everybody's in their own time zone, and everybody at some point is on their own level. As soon as Beyonce sits down on that toilet, she's on the same level as you. Think about that. Think about that. So don't ever put yourself down because somebody else has more money than you. Your time will come, but just really accept it and trust the process. It's hard, but it will come to light. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. But jokes aside, I think we need to really just focus on on what our true purpose is. If you don't know, continue to do what you're doing. It'll find you. It'll find you. Not saying that I have it all figured out, because nobody does. Everybody else is in a way. I don't even think Elon Musk, if not the richest man of the 21st century, he's not satisfied. You try to buy Twitter and they still didn't let you, man. This is the thing. So you shouldn't be troubled about that small thing, in your life. If Elon Musk can't even buy Twitter for 50 billion, dude. Was it 50 billion?
Yeah, I think it's 49. Yeah, 49 billion. Yeah.
Let that be a testament to you guys, for real.
It's a good perspective. Yeah, this is a common thing in the entrepreneur space, and I struggle with this a lot, is the comparison, right? I didn't have a Mrs. Maha in my life.
Wow, I need to take her into account now.
Man. If I were you, I would call her, just because,
definitely, 100%.
She mentions to your mom, like, oh, how's Elton? So that would probably like, that probably give her life so much
goosebumps.
meaning,
Absolute goosebumps.
Like, I guarantee you she'd start crying,
Oh, absolutely. I think I was in touch with her briefly, 2018, but still, I'm gonna get in contact with her as soon as this podcast ends, and I'll do a follow-up video, and then it goes viral on BuzzFeed. Joke. No one wants to watch a BuzzFeed video, man. Let's be honest.
But for me, like in jiu-jitsu, when I'm training, I always compare myself to others. So like there'll be some guys that come in and they're trained for like 2 months and they're like almost at my level. And I've been training for 2 years. And I'm like, fuck. And my coaches are like, that's their journey. This is your journey. Like maybe they just have their past experiences have like created neural pathways in their brain where they can just pick up something like jiu-jitsu very fast.
Exactly.
But this doesn't mean to say that I'm shit because they're great. Yeah. It's just that's their journey. That's my journey. And just that reframe of looking at, oh wow, this is my journey. Like I shouldn't compare it to your journey. Like you've had completely different life experiences than me.
Right.
Which is why you are who you are and I am who I am. And so, man, that's it's really cool to look at it in a different perspective.
Right.
Otherwise, you're like, fuck, that person's ahead of me. Like I'm shit.
Yeah.
Like even this podcast for me, like, man, I had this idea 9 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. But I just didn't do it. I did other things which I did well in, but this idea always came back. Like, and I saw a guy that I knew. Lewis Howes, actually, I knew him in 2009. Like we worked together for one project anyway, and then we just like stopped talking to each other, not by anything, just because he was like outgrew me, right? And then he went into doing the podcast and I was like doing my other stuff, and then like 9 years later, like that idea I had to like do kind of similar to what he's done and like look at what he's created, like I could look at that and be like, fuck man, like, and I've obviously processed this, right? Like fuck, I could have done all that stuff, I could have been where he is now if I just kept on going. But like you said, man, I like how you said it. Everyone's in their own time zone. So that just wasn't my time zone. Now it is. Like now it is. This is my time now.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah.
I truly love it, what you're doing and how you've come to acceptance of that. Backtracking on high school, the strengths and weakness aspect was very, very clear. Like I wasn't the best at maths, but I wrote amazing stories in English, English stories, I was very expressive during art class, and that's the thing we have to kind of really accept, like when we're in the process of growing, that, our seeds are planted, but the roots will take time. The roots will take time. The patches are different, So yeah, with that being said, I fully have accepted that, things will come in due time, but it's just really having the patience, and it's easier said than done, but it's discipline. It just boils down to discipline, how you take things. But just not really ever rushing anything in life, because there's just one thing you learn in life. It's just things will happen. Things will fall into place.
How do you have that trust that things will happen, things will fall into place?
Like, just even backtracking off my earlier days, as a kid, like at the back of my mind, I knew there would be some kind of, not reward, but acceptance in this whole thing. It wasn't supposed to be a gloomy ride, in this life. I mean, you can look in the mirror, but then you can see that's like, there's more to it. Like you're the entire frame. But I was like, as a creative at the time, I was like, I think this is to be celebrated. Mrs. Maher celebrating me, and me being accepted by those around me, like showing my art even in school, like playing those bongo drums in the communion or the confirmation. I was like, I knew there was some confirmation in that, I was like, oh, this is it. You're special. And other people saw that, and I started to see that. And then, it took time, like accepting who I was. Even till this day, I may still have times of doubt that I am who I am, but it's like we're really truly unique beings. We're capable of so much, but like we have a tendency of putting ourselves down, in more ways than one. But once you really follow it through, the thought process, and you in retrospect you look back and you're like, wow, this has been a journey, but like, that's we're almost there. We've almost hit the end goal, but there is no really end goal. We just continue through this walk of life,
How do you stay positive when nothing seems to be going your way? Like when you were going through all this shit, how did you stay positive?
At such a young age, there's not much to turn to. I walked by faith, not by sight. I was very just expressive with what I did, the music and that stuff. So that was for me the relieving factor to cope with this, as a young kid, listening to music and picking up the guitar and even though I wasn't chatty, but there wasn't really much resources at the time. But I'm trying to even reflect back on that. Just having a good support system, I think, was great within that school. I had great friends, very young, but I had great friends that they really did celebrate me, because I was crowned as they called me Eltiano at the time, and I would overindulge in skills. I think it was the when Ronaldinho was at his peak, so it was nice at soccer, but I would always overdo it with the skill, and I got that title, Eltiano. But even my friends, like, would come over to my house and I have the keyboard there, and I would just create. I think the creative space that I had and the people around me was something that kept me afloat, mentally. I don't think without those outlets I would be who I am today, like those, having a guitar teacher, Michael Heffernan, I remember his name now. And my other childhood friends as well, just is playing guitar and just listening to music, those were, and being active in sports, it was like a huge staples within my life that kept me mentally purified. Because I was probably funny in some way, but at that point I didn't know the capabilities I have, to make people laugh.
Yeah. Do you feel like this is a blessing from God?
It is.
Like God basically said, I'm going to give you one eye so you can realize that you're special.
Yeah.
Does that resonate?
100%, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Like I say, without any of this, I wouldn't be in this studio talking to you about this. Isn't that wild? Let's just take a moment. Just take a moment. If it wasn't for that casualty, at a tender age of 3, I don't know, dude. I really think I could have still been in Nigeria. Not a notion like in my parents' mind would they have thought, oh, let's go to UK for what? We're going to stay in Nigeria, become children of God. So I'm like, God has really shone that light on that eye. I've been able to celebrate it, and actually I met Avicii's his doctor, his psychiatric doctor, his therapist. So he's he works with a lot of celebrities that have addiction, and he would rehabilitate them within the house. He would stay with them which was wild that I met him. It was in my gym. Well, and obviously I was a bit curious, like, hey, it was just me and him in the gym, and like I'll conversate with the dog down the road, dude. I like a good discussion, and I was like, hey, you gonna use this equipment? He's like, no, it's okay, whatever. And then the small talk. I'm not really small talk. I'd like to get a full length novel out of you, And he was like, just finding out about him. He's been here since like the 1970s in north of Ubud. It's just wild. This is before any bule, before anything.
Yeah.
And he said he's back and forth. He has a clinic in Zurich and in Ibiza, which is wild. Not really the last place you'd want a clinic, but Ibiza. But he said that he deals with a lot of I didn't say celebrities, but celebrities who deal with like a lot of substance abuse, because he was 20 years addicted to crack, and that to me was just incredible. I was like, and you've managed to kind of fulfill that and overcome and shine that light on people that are on a bigger scale dealing with the spotlight, like right now, and unable to attain that, to keep themselves together. But he said has been in that space for like 30 years. He looked like maybe early 70s. He looked amazing, by the way. Tall. You would never think he was that old, because he did a lot of yoga. And I was just curious, like, not that I wanted to really know, but I was just very curious, like, who have you worked with? Like, it's like, he's from UK as well. Dr. Paul Tanner, by the way, thank you. I can't really tell you that, mate. To be honest, I have an NDA, I believe. Oh, yes, okay. But I can tell you one guy. He recently died, but you might be familiar with him. I was like, who is I said, I don't know why I just said Prince. I don't know why. It's so stupid, but I just spewed out names, Spewed out a series of 3 names, and he's like, no, it's actually Avicii. I was like, what? Yeah, he said,
didn't do a good job then, did he?
We're gonna cut that out in post, we're gonna get cancelled for this, that. Oh my goodness. I love the internet, man. I was like, what? I dealt with Avicii, and he was like,
I love comedy.
I love comedy, man. Deal with it, guys. This is a comedy podcast. Deal with it. He was like, yeah, he was a very insecure guy. He always would text me like he wouldn't know how to communicate with girls, and I just felt very sorry for him. Should I be? I don't care, man. He already told me the story, whatever, man. Cancel me, sue me, man. I ain't got money. See you in the court. But it was like they really sad. But it's obvious how the industry works. He's like, yeah, there was a point where they asked me to polish him up. Like they wanted him to polish him up so that he can get ready for tour. I was like, that's sad, man.
Polish him up. What does that mean?
Just get him clean so that he can go back on tour, so they can just rinse more money on him. I was like, this is crazy. And yeah, I mean, long story short, like I don't want to get into how he died, but I mean, tell you off the pod. After all this talk, he just told me about the presence of yoga in his life and how he's been able to nurture the yoga lifestyle and become within himself, one within. And he said something really, really alarming to me. He's like, hey man, treat your eye with love. Tell your eye you love it and celebrate it every day. Treat it as if it was your good eye. And that really, it's set well in my heart. I've never looked at it in that way, because for so long I've looked at it as the bad eye, the rotten eye, whatever. And for him to say that, to see the quality and the presence in that, I was just like, I was taken aback. I was like, this is, wow. Celebrate and treat it with love. Treat it as if it was any other part of your body, And I was like, this is, and long story short, I got his contact, and he's been great mentorship and just, like a presence in my life. But that, again, is another testament to why conversation is important. What if I would have been just focusing on my slow reps and never talked to this guy? I would have never known this information. Like I say, that split second that you're on your phone and you're not paying attention to your surroundings could be a moment where you will never get back. Well, that moment's, it's already gone as soon as you get distracted, but maybe take some time and not actually indulge in just acknowledge your surroundings, nudge someone, ask them how they are, and just conversate. Even if I know a lot of people fear for the worst for conversation. There's nothing to lose other than someone saying they want to keep their name out your mouth, but it's like, it's so important. I would have never had that notion in my mind if I wouldn't have talked to Dr. Paul. So I should, I think for the most part, dialogue is just a beautiful aspect of life that we need to really consider, no matter what area or point that you are in your life.
There's so many beautiful gifts that can come from just having a conversation. You never know where it may lead.
Exactly.
It's like, I think of people as presents, and how you open them up is by asking them questions, right? So it's like, you never know where, like this, I didn't know what was going to come out of your mouth.
I know, man. It's like, even when we first met, I don't know, how did we meet?
At Nirvana,
right? Yeah. I don't know what we talked about, but it was engaging.
Yeah. We were just cracking jokes.
Because we chose to, and it's like, once you make the split decision to actually just to open your mouth, you have nothing to lose, man. You might learn something about yourself you've never known before. Not that you might have bad breath, but that's one thing. So most people should probably keep their mouths closed, but if they're confident enough, clean your tongue,
Or just keep a healthy distance.
True,
at least do that.
I think that's COVID as well, Keep your mask on as well, That helps too.
When you're talking to someone and you take a step back and then they take a step forward and you're like, dude, I took a step back on purpose.
There's a protocol, man. Oh my, there's a mandate. That's real. That's so real. That's real. I feel that.
So Yeah, man. Like what? That's cool that you have that connection with this guy now.
It's wild,
like,
man. Because I chose to.
Yeah. And he seems like, I mean, he seems very genuine in what he said, and sincere. Like he just wants to help. Like he's just like that value of love. What he said to you is a loving thing to say to someone, because he can see. Maybe because he knows, obviously that's his vocation,
his purpose,
right?
man.
His vocation is that. So maybe he's aware that maybe you're not treating your eye with love, and so he
was right. He was right.
Just that intuition.
Beyond the body language, but I think the way I expressed myself at the time, but he was. It was like a given. Like he showed up at that very moment. This was not a coincidence that I happened to meet somebody that has a purpose to fulfill others. And I don't even think if it was for that I would have been able to have that same mindset. Because it's wild. We tend to treat our weaker traits with less attention than the others, so it's like, I don't know how you were in your left hand. Like, are you right-handed or left-handed, like when writing? Yeah, I don't know how much attention you give to your left hand when writing.
I don't write with my left.
But is there anything? It's not really a good argument to use your left hand, but yeah, I mean but maybe in terms of the disability, I should say. But people that are inapt to do things will find some sort of attachment with their weaker spots. So though I may not be able to see, boy, do I show it off, man. Wow. And I've had endless people say that I should consider an eye patch. No. Why would I hide this?
That's interesting, because to me that sounds like they're just projecting their insecurities
into
you.
Yeah. Why? How about you put your eye patch on yourself? Like, why would I want to look like Jack Sparrow? He wasn't even call it Black Sparrow, man. I'll be Black Sparrow if I did have an eye patch, but bad joke, I know. But dude, it's actually insane how many people have considered it. Slick Rick has one, but like I don't want to be another Slick Rick. I'm just me, man.
Yeah, exactly. Just owning yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just coming to terms that you are you. I've probably mentioned this 1,000 times, but yeah, you are you, and there's only one of you in this world. Isn't that wild, dude? I mean, I feel sorry for my doppelganger, but
for who?
My doppelganger. I probably don't have one though. The doppelgangers is just lookalikes.
Oh.
But I don't think.
Is that some Irish slang?
No, it's German.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Learned something new today, guys. Hey, welcome to the You May Not Know Something podcast. We're here with Aaron Darko. It's kind of dark in this lighting. But doppelganger is like, you have one. Everybody has maybe one to three doppelgangers in this world.
Yeah.
But I don't think I have one, man. And that's very obnoxious to say, but I really don't think. What black bald guy with a stash has a retina detachment and a cataract? I'll find out after this podcast.
I'm sure there's a lot of guys like that, man. I'm sure there's a lot, but they don't look like Elton.
Right. Yeah. Wow. How obnoxious I am.
But yeah, everything was like, there's always pivotal moments in one's life, right? So the whole believing in yourself thing and not having shame for being who you are goes back to the Mrs. Maha moment when you had the carrot in your lunchbox. Like everything, it's funny because the more I study about trauma and all this stuff and how it links to how we are as adults, like a lot of our life is lived from one moment that we attach a meaning to it, and then we just live out our life through that. So like the meaning that you attached to that event was, oh, I'm unique, I can be myself, and that's permeated everything you've done from that point, right?
True. Right.
It's like I'm being myself,
right?
And you're owning that, and this is why everything's happened how it has,
right? Right.
And so that segues nicely into the accolades, because we've covered your story now. Well, not all of it, of course. We can talk for hours about your story, but the accolades, like what have you been able to achieve as a result of believing in yourself?
being able to really follow through and make these quote unquote dreams come to fruition. Creating music for indie game studios, even like helping artists grow their sound. Because I felt like for so long I don't like to be in the limelight, even though I'm in the limelight right now. I like to be in the process behind the scenes. So Accolades for me is kind of like I don't see them as accolades, but I see it. I like to be a support system for other people. So if it's something, talking to somebody and they might have problems, I can consult them and see on how I can how I can help their thought process. Not dictate what they should do, but just giving like a more rounded or how would I say it? It's just an objective opinion on things. But yeah, being able to create with some incredible people in the industry. Started a project with my dear friend Monroe, Liam. Sorry, I doxed you. Called Double Think. I met him on SoundCloud like maybe 7 years ago, and we met in Jordan. Of all places, and started this project, and dropped our single. It's slowly getting there. But obviously, accolades don't mean anything to me. It's just being able to push my vision out to the world, and for people, just like I said, like if it's just 15 people liking that song or that piece of art, that's enough for me. That's my goal. That's my end goal. I don't care about numbers or popularity or fandom or fame. It's just like you can literally resonate with that idea. That's it. You feel what I feel. When I make art, it's just I want people to feel what I feel, and yeah, that's the beauty of expressiveness, expressive art, expressive talking, whatever. But being able to photograph and video, for people, companies, whatever, on a global scale, it's been amazing, and I don't take it for granted at all. But like I said, like accolades mean very little to me. I'm just happy to put my ideas out there, because I think we've maybe touched on that at some point. We've to some degree really felt that we're never enough, or our ideas are never enough. I think at some point you've probably felt about this podcast. You never felt that it was complete, or there's more that you can expand out of it,
Yeah, for sure.
Right, yeah, you felt that, right?
All the time.
Dude, that will consume you, and that has consumed me for many years as an artist. It's not even about art, but it's just our thought process. It's like, what if I did this? How would people interpret this? How it's all about these external factors that don't matter. As soon as you put it out, you'll realize that none of those factors really matter. It's just like people will see it for what it is, that idea of yours, because we nitpick everything as a species, that thing's out, but that idea is out, but it's never going to be a degree of perfection. And that's one of the diseases that I didn't mention that I suffer from, is perfectionism. That will absolutely destroy you. So if it's just making a song idea, I have pieces that I still have privated for. I hadn't have released music for 7 years because I felt that it wasn't adequate, it wasn't enough. But slowly accepting that and releasing music, not too long ago, it was the turning point. Was like, wow, this is the freeing factor of it. It's liberating to put it out there. You can't really keep it trapped for so long, because at any moment things can go, and no one would ever know about that special idea of yours. Think about Prince. Like when he died, he did like I don't know how many countless amounts of albums locked up, but I think a lot of artists in that realm are never ever satisfied. But yeah, I think people should really trust their intuition, and if you feel like something's never complete, put it out anyway, dude. Put it out anyway. You have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose at all.
People would argue that they do. People would argue that they do have stuff to lose. For example, my story about this podcast. Fuck, I want to put all this time into something that, like it's not going to make money from the first episode. So why am I going to do it? That's opportunity cost. I could be making money with that time. I'm investing into something that's not making like that. A lot of people think like that. Yeah. I thought like that for a long time. So yeah, that's like a real concern for people.
Right.
I wouldn't say it is real, but it's like in their mind it's real. It's like, but they're just thinking of it from one angle.
Right.
They're not thinking of it from a different perspective.
Yeah. There are so many ways to go about it. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It really depends on the predicament that you're in. For some people, it's like this is spur of the moment thing to release content, but then you have to outweigh the long-term aspects of it. What's your actual purpose in this? Is there a home for this place or not?
And if they keep coming back to the idea, like I kept coming back to this idea, like I was like, fuck, I want to do a podcast. Fuck, I want to do it. I want to do it. Like it's a recurring idea that kept coming back, and I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. So if they have that, would you agree? Like maybe they should do it. If it keeps coming back to them every year, like, oh shit, I should make that song, or I should paint that painting, or whatever it is for them.
Yeah, I should learn the guitar. I'd highly encourage that, because there's somebody you may not know that might take great influence in what you created. That's the power of art, man. It's more powerful than what the creator might think as the holder and administrator of the art. You like. I've made songs with friends, and I've not even just me, but like you look at songs, you scroll through a YouTube comment, and you never think that this person was going through this, or this person lost these things, and like it's different. People just you really like you feel different things from different pieces, but the way art is interpreted is just it's on a completely subjective basis, So that's the beauty of art, Right. You really don't know like how it's going to influence somebody, Like the same way I said, like with how I started being proactive in talking, I didn't know that it would have somebody starstruck or saying that they were influenced to pick up a camera, or they were influenced to do so and so. It's really, it's liberating, like I said before, because you just don't think about it when you're in that frame of mind. You're so like deeply rooted in that problem. And then when you see it from the outside view, it's like, oh wow, this is crazy. That's how I feel like even when I tell my story. I don't look at it from the outside. And it's still weird to me how people say this isn't. I don't see that. Not because I'm blind, but I don't see that enough. I don't see through it that clear as other people, because you spend so long in turmoil that there's only a bit of the light that you see. But when I tell people about my life, they're like, well, I don't know, because I guess I'm just because I've been so accustomed to that mindset, So it takes a matter of time to really understand how people may see it.
Yeah, that's
it's really wild.
It's interesting when you talk about your story, you get more epiphanies and realizations as you just vocalize it. Right? Like the Mrs. Maher, like you had some epiphanies about that just now by just talking about it.
It's truly wild. Like it's bizarre to me how that very moment still, was that 15 years, more than 15 years ago? It's still the first thought I get when I deep dive into retrospect. It's always that carrot, that lunchbox. It's always that moment where she took me aside and said, "I'm gonna take you under my wing." It's always that moment when she said, "Oh, you have gifts." It's always that moment when she displayed my work to the other class. It's those moments that really built up those characteristics to this day, you know. Everybody needs that.
And what that is that was her showing her love towards you. So it's like love. We were talking about this. Me and Cherie were talking about this, and Andrea. You met Andrea?
Andrea, yeah.
And Michael. We were talking about how love is all you need to give a child, and the power of love will just create like an unstoppable child. You know, someone who just ultimately believes in themselves, no matter what, has the ultimate amount of trust in themselves, just from love, just telling them that they can do it, that they're great, they're unique. You know.
Not to discredit my parents, they were amazing. Yeah. But I think the Nigerian mindset is a bit different. Obviously, coming to the Western world at that time, you know, maybe the goals and aspirations were different. You know, go and become a doctor and, you know, a lawyer or whatever. You know, I don't know if that's what they want to be. They were very supportive, but just having that, putting yourself in a completely different part of the world, in a new social norm, new social space and educational system, and just to have somebody really like take your back is actually wild, man. I don't know how it is now, but like this is 2002, 2001. It's actually bizarre, man. Who's doing to the only black kid in the school, man?
I'd also argue that, yeah, I agree with that, and also even in adults too. Like my business, like I see it. Like I was reading a book about this, and it really connected the dots for me. It's like because my business is for entrepreneurs, right? So people who are doing well, who are like not taking care of their health, they've sacrificed their health for wealth, and now they're like seeing, fuck, I'm 45, I've got 2 kids, married, and my belly's growing every year, and I have no idea why. My back hurts, my hips fucking hurt, everything hurts. You know, this is the kind of person I'm coaching, and they spend their whole life like trying to get away from not feeling like they're good enough. So they built a business, right? Got kids, wife, that whole lifestyle. But now they're like, their whole life they felt like no one supported them because they've been their own cheerleader. And so like having that support, even as an adult, is important too.
True.
You know? It's like we're still kids.
It's even more important. Kids. That's even more important as an adult now.
Yeah.
Because that will really be a continuation of who you are, you know, for the next 50 years, you know. But yeah, support system, regardless of age, demographic, is essential. You might not know who they are, but they in due time it will come, you know. You don't need any, like even for myself, I was the support system. I was my own entertainer. I made myself laugh, I made myself food, you know. I mean, I would just indulge in myself, you know. So you don't necessarily need to be in a room of 50 people to know that you're loved, you know. One person, 2 person is enough. Like self-love and self-care is at the top of the, not even the food chain, but the chain of human existence, you know. That's what I couldn't acknowledge. I couldn't love myself because I didn't feel that I was enough or that I was normal, you know. Then loving that quality in you, you know, it's so beautiful because you really see that you are loved because you are you, and your uniqueness shines through everybody, you know. And that's one of the things, you know, I've really grasped, like maybe for 7 to 8 years, you know, like that's just loving thyself. You know,
and that's a powerful thing when you really. Like, I'm still on the journey to loving myself completely, because I was talking to my friend over there about this, and she said, everyone thinks they love themselves. Like I saw so many people, they're like, yeah, I love myself. I do this and this and this. It's like, but then that same person would go and like say a really harsh comment to someone else. And then I was talking to Emil, my friend here, and he said, they don't, if they're saying something really harsh that hurts someone, like on purpose, that person who says they love themselves doesn't really love themselves, because someone who loves themselves wouldn't intentionally hurt someone else.
Yeah, it's
you know,
treat people how you want to be treated, really.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Don't
and yeah, just that whole concept of really just loving who you are, you know, and how much power you get from that. Like when, for example, the people telling you to put an eye patch on, they don't love themselves, clearly. That's why they're projecting.
If you guys are watching this, yeah.
It's you're more powerful than them because you're owning yourself. This is just like when you own yourself, that's all you need. You know. Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah, you mentioned. Yeah, I never understood why would you tell me to get an eye patch? That's wild, man. Why not tell me to dress up as a gecko instead, eh? Like, I've always wondered that, and it does. It comes to light now. Like it's these people seem to be very insecure about themselves. You know, you don't want to live your. I mean, do it to your dog, but not me. You know, like and it's been a reoccurring thing for years. Oh, you should wear this. You should do this. You should do that. You know, no, I'm gonna make decisions for myself and based off my own intuition. You know, because I don't need to satisfy anybody else but myself.
Absolutely.
I have nothing to prove anymore.
And the acceptance, man, like, man, I used to be so judgmental, and I just over the years learned to decrease the amount of judgment I have towards people, and just step into more of acceptance, like accepting how people dress, like everything about people. And that's helped me connect on a deeper level with so many more people, like yourself included, you know? So, yeah, that's what you said earlier about you accepted the situation that you had, like with yourself, and then you started to conversate more and have more dialogue, and then you started to realize, wow, people are actually cool. I love people. You know, it's that whole process that you went through. So yeah, man, I think for someone listening because again, I think a block to connection is how you feel about people. It's not connecting with people. It's like the emotion around it. It's like, oh fuck. I fucking like being judgmental is like anger, right? It's like having anger towards other people. Yeah,
you know. It's just like,
so that's blocking the connection. It's not that that other person's bad. It's just that you can't open yourself up to connect because the emotion is in the way. Like how you feel about people is the issue, which is stopping the connection. Like that, like when you met at Paul in the gym, right? Dr. Paul,
Mr. Paul Tanner. Yeah. Wow, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna send it to you, Paul.
Like you could have been like fucking.
I could have literally not talked to him.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
And if you had a story of, I don't like people, fucking people, like you wouldn't have spoken to him.
Yeah, isn't that wild? Just actively deciding, hey, I'm like, it started off with just me picking the weights and, you know, we was using that, but I was like, hey, work. He actually was the person that not triggered the question, but he said, what happened to your eye? Straight. And I've had people. I've been very, very. I've kind of strayed away from that question from people. I usually kind of like brush it off, blah blah blah. I got in a bar fight or some stuff, but now it's like, yo, I'm gonna give you the novelty. Like I'm gonna give you like the entire the thesis of my life, yo. Like, and I was like, yeah, people don't hold back. People shouldn't hold back asking questions. I don't mind. Guns ablaze, ask me what happened to my eye. Like it's no longer something that I project as an insecurity. But when he said it, I was like, yeah, this guy is willing to learn. And like when people ask that, they're opening themselves up to adversity and life experiences, you know, because experience shouldn't cost you anything, you know. And he went straight in with it, and I told him straight up, and yeah, that's when he told me to celebrate and treat it to like any other part of my body. But yeah, I think with that in mind, I think people should never hold back. I know there's certain boundaries, but with me, you can feel free to ask, anything, because I don't hold back in talking. But in general, it's never a bad thing to ask questions. Like you said, we're still kids, and we're never gonna grow up. So ask away.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's just it comes back to me. What happened to your eye? Even somebody asked me a few days ago. I was like, I'm compelled to tell someone, but if you ask me, I'll give you more of the badge of honor. That's brave of you to ask, because I think people hold back from saying that because they think it's invasive or it's personal. It's not personal because it's in public. It's personal if I had an eye patch. So for the most part, don't hold back from asking in general, really, because you never know, man. Maybe I was never in a bar fight. Sorry, didn't see the mic.
That's actually an interesting one, because when I met you in the evening at a party, and I was standing like this close from you, and then you were like, "Who's that?"
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
I was like, "Yo, it's me." We were standing this close.
Crazy.
Because I never had that experience, right?
Oh,
and I thought you were joking because you always joke
That's
around.
That's the thing about me, yeah. People,
I was like, are you fucking joking? Like, you can't fucking, I'm fucking 1 foot away from you, bro. You're like, no, it's dark, man, I can't see you. And then Felix shows up, and then you're like, you can't see him either. And I'm like, and I put the flash on, and you're, oh yeah, you know.
Yeah, it's me, Elton, yeah. Elton's me. I met you in Sylvie's house, yeah, super, yeah. It's perfect, yeah. I'm the actor. Yeah, I think it's like, because of the lack of depth field of view that I have, it's like I'm limited in what I can do. I don't bike, as you know, I don't really go out at night, but people like you, comes back to support system. People know, because they've asked, they're well aware. If I cannot, mobility, I'm restricted, but not restricted, I don't want to say that, but I'm gonna have to have guidance. You remember on my birthday, people were holding me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna see as well as the average human being. So, people acknowledging that is the beauty of that, having that support system, and to see them as my other eye, But I think it's part of that. Even I see myself as a bit of a snob, because if I don't see them, I literally don't see them, and they're it's not a bit.
Yeah.
It's not a bit.
They understand.
Yeah, they get it. They get it though,
So in closing, is there anything you wanted to share that we didn't touch on before I go to my last question?
I think I've pretty much checked all the boxes. There were no boxes to begin with, but I've loved this discussion, and it's just I don't see it as a podcast. I just feel like there's some lights and we're just talking and having coconut water, It doesn't get any more Bali than that,
That's right.
Is this organic?
Yeah. So I have a question I ask everyone who comes on the show, which is, what is the meaning of life to you?
We'll be right back after this commercial break. What is the meaning of life? In this life, I think we need to be very careful with how we look at things and situations, because I think we put a bit too much emphasis on the littlest of things. These grudges are not important, man. Just put them aside. Put your ego aside, and just treat everybody as you would like to be treated, but treat everybody with the same tenderness and love every day, be selfless, The meaning of life, we'll have to see till the next episode, guys.
Fair enough. It's a deep question.
It is, man. I think it takes some time.
Yeah.
At this, I'm still young. We're all still young, but I think there's still some uncovered chapters to to reflect on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe ask me this in another 20 years, but nobody has the answers, but it really just it's very subjective.
Absolutely.
Very subjective.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, meaning of life.
What's a life well lived for you, right?
Right, exactly.
It's subjective to you.
It is, right? Yeah.
Some people just want to sit around the fire at night and play guitar. That's what they want to do in their life.
People want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
But I would say, expect to be scared in doing things you've never done at all. Have some dialogue with that girl in your workplace that you never liked. Eat the food you haven't anticipated to like in your life. Just like I said, it's as cliche as it is, man. But just say yes to things. Surrender and say yes. Open yourself up to experiences and opportunities in life, because you do not know where you will be. Right here, could be on a podcast. You could be on the aisle with your husband, wife, whoever it may be. But just these not saying yes in a marriage, but it depends if you love him or not. But saying yes in general, man. I've really come to terms with that. Really, really like putting yourself out there to the world, to the universe. Say universe because we're in Bali, But yeah, it's just meaning of life should be just opening yourself up to experiences that you may never think may benefit you, because that is the essence of life. The unknown. The unknown, man.
That's awesome. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Elton, well, thank you very much. I'll link you up in the show notes.
Thank you.
You want people to follow you on Instagram? Or
at Elton Peters, eltonpeters.com. It's all be in the description. So, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, man. It's been a good chat, and you've inspired a lot of people. Inspired myself as well.
Thank you, man.
I've learned more about you, so it's cool, man.
Appreciate it, bro.
I like it. Yeah.
Thanks so much for having
me,
man. Appreciate it, man. I didn't see your hand there. I was there. I was like, wait, is that his hand?
Brilliant.
Guys, I'm actually flying this. I was like,
See you guys.
Is he gonna punch me, man?